Energy efficiency is a complex conversation and encompasses thousands of programs and technologies. Efficiency Manitoba focuses that overwhelming amount of information, helping Manitobans save money on their energy bills and better understand the efficient technologies available. Multicultural's Green Toba is another project to help with just that. Today, we have prairieHOUSE Performance, which offers services for many of Efficiency Manitoba's programs and gives us expert advice on the first step in energy efficiency, evaluating your home. Today we have Gio from prairieHOUSE Performance. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell us please about prairieHOUSE, what you guys do.
Yeah, so on very general terms, I like to say that prairieHOUSE Performance is a company that's focused on sustainability. But more specifically, we deal with the building performance or the performance of houses. What do we mean by performance of houses? That's a term that encompasses everything from the energy efficiency to the comfort, to the greenhouse gas emissions, to the indoor air quality, resilience, and durability of a house. So some people assume it's just about reducing energy use, but it turns out that when we improve our buildings, there's a whole bunch of other things that happen that have lots of value, especially for people who are trying to survive our very, very cold winters. We want our houses to be efficient and to be really comfortable. We want the indoor air quality to be really good so that we don't have problem with dry skin or mold on the walls. So we provide a whole bunch of different services to help homeowners make good decisions about how to improve their houses and to help them access many of the really generous offers there are federally and provincially for homeowners in terms of incentives, programs, rebates, grants.
What is an energy evaluation? Please walk me through the process.
Yeah, so an energy evaluation is a multi-hour process where a registered energy advisor comes to your house. And the job of that person, the goal of that evaluation is to collect all the information related to the performance or the energy use in the house. So that includes, we would typically be measuring the entire house, measuring every single window and door, trying to identify what type of glass there is in every type of window. We look at the insulation levels in attics, walls, and foundations. We collect information on the mechanical equipment, the efficiency and type of equipment for heating, for cooling, for ventilation, for hot water. And then finally, we have a big piece of equipment called a blower door that we'll put on the front door of the house. And that equipment pulls air out of the house. And as we're sucking huge amounts of air out of the house, outside air tries to rush in through all the cracks and holes to replace it. And it turns out that there's actually mathematical formulas and a procedure to calculate the size of hole in the house if you add together every little pinhole and crack and gap. So old houses have big, big holes in them, and newer houses are really, really airtight. But we use that piece of equipment to both measure the air leakage and to locate the air leakage. So what do we do with all that information? We're then able to, we have some special software we enter all of that data into, and we build a virtual house in our software. And we can run that virtual house through a year of virtual weather where it's located, whether it's in Gimli or whether it's in Winnipeg or wherever in Manitoba. And that software tells us how much energy that house is predicted to use. We can then also take that virtual model and make virtual upgrades to it. We can say, wow, there's low levels of insulation here. What if we improve the insulation in the basement? How much energy do we save? What if we change the windows or put in an air source heat pump? That way we can give the homeowner a report that ranks and prioritizes all of the energy efficiency and performance opportunities in the house, right? Because usually people live in houses and they know they're kind of cold and they know their heating bills are kind of high, but they don't know where to start. So having an energy evaluation like this means that you have a third-party professional who's in the house, and they're not there to sell you anything or convince you to do anything against your will. They're just there to give you really good information and say, here are all the things that you can do in order of importance to make your house perform better. Here's how much energy each of them can save. Oh, and by the way, here are all the Efficiency Manitoba and federal programs you can take advantage of to reduce the cost and the burden of making those upgrades.
Tell us about some of the significant energy challenges of the prairie climate. For newcomers to Canada who may not be from cold climates, what should they be looking for?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, we have a very absurd climate that we have to build and maintain houses in, right? We have temperatures in the summer that can be as high as 35 to 40 degrees above Celsius, and winter temperatures minus 35. So we have an over 70-degree gradient between the coldest and the warmest. So that creates some real challenges with regards to making sure our houses survive, that they're durable and they don't have issues, and then also keeping people comfortable at a reasonable cost. So, but usually, you know, in Manitoba, if you speak to anybody around the world about Manitoba, the first comment is about how cold it is.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is the biggest challenge making improvements to houses so that occupants can be comfortable, so that they don't eat them alive by how much energy they use, and that the indoor air quality is good, that it's not so dry that our skin is cracking and we're having sore lungs all the time, or on the contrary, for newer houses, that they aren't so humid that you have condensation dripping off the windows and stuff like that. So the challenges are extreme, and the challenges and opportunities really vary house to house. You know, the type of things that we find or identify as opportunities in a really old house are going to be generally very, very difficult in a house that's newer, built in the 1970s, 1980s, or a brand new house.
Okay. And when should someone contact an energy evaluator?
Yeah. Well, usually the time is now, obviously, but most often people do contact us when they feel they have an issue that they have to deal with. So sometimes people phone us because they've spoken to a neighbor or a friend and they realize that their energy bills are higher than everyone else. Some people phone us when they're having real issues with comfort. You know, maybe it's one level of the house is colder than the rest, or maybe it's one room is hotter or colder than the rest. Another reason that people would call us is if there's a clear problem with what we call durability. And by durability, I mean a building problem like moisture or water dripping out of the ceiling, or mold growing behind a bed or in a closet, or funny smells and things like that. So if you have any of those problems with comfort, with durability, or with energy costs, we would probably be the best people to first contact.
So there are different ways and reasons why people are calling you, not just one or two, there are multiples.
Yeah, absolutely. And the type of services that we provide and the type of advice that we give is always tailored to answer the questions or to respond to the issues that the homeowner are having.
Okay. How do evaluations change when looking from the perspective of a homeowner, a home builder, or from a community level?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, so clearly the priorities of those groups are very different. Again, for homeowners, every energy evaluation starts with us talking to that homeowner and wanting to understand what are your issues, what are your goals and objectives, what is your budget, what is your timeline, right? We don't want to give advice that is unreasonable or doesn't fit their budget or what their focus is. For home builders, often it's the type of advice that we give during evaluation is focused to making sure that that the product, that the house they're building is going to be successful and that their clients are going to be happy, so that that client isn't phoning back with problems or issues. Often it's a real marketing opportunity for the home builder to say, look, I know I build a good house. I want to make sure everyone knows that my house is more exceptional than everybody else's. So by doing an evaluation, we can actually give them a report and an enter guide label, which is a document that rates the house and compares it to other houses built in the province, so that they can show this to potential clients to say, look, a regular house is here, look at how good we're doing. So home builders will often come to us as well, because there are some new things happening in our industry with regards to technology, and they want to make sure that they get our advice so that they can implement these technologies in their houses without problems later on. And then from a community, your third question was our evaluations from a community level. We don't do an exceptional amount of work with communities. We do work frequently with Indigenous communities, and sometimes with existing houses and sometimes with new houses. So we would really take the same approach. We would want to work with a community and understand what their goals, their objectives, their budgets are, and then we would tailor the type of service evaluations and advice we're giving to meet their needs.
Thank you. And what are some of the current technologies or advancements that can improve the energy efficiency of your home?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The other day I was looking through some old building magazines I had from 30, 40 years ago. And really, if you look at the very basics about building and energy efficiency and building performance, for the most part, we've known for a long, long time that the way to make a building efficient and comfortable is to make sure we have high levels of insulation, or adequate or high levels of insulation everywhere in the attics, the walls, and the foundation, and to make them as airtight as possible. So there's really, from that point of view, we have slightly better insulations that are available. We have more sophisticated tools to measure, to install, to execute that type of insulation upgrade. We now have windows that are much more efficient and comfortable than 20 or 30 years ago. So these are some things that have made small improvements for homeowners. Probably the biggest gains we've seen recently is with regards to the introduction of cold climate air source heat pumps. And this is a technology that's if you were to walk up to a house, it looks like an air conditioner. There's a big thing outside that whirs and makes noise and has a fan in it. And it connects to a coil above the furnace in the basement. Different than an air conditioner, however, this works in reverse. So it's actually able to pull heat out of the air and push it and move it into the house at really, really high efficiencies. It allows us to be able to move away from heating our houses with primarily natural gas to heating with more electricity or all electricity, which in Manitoba means eliminating greenhouse gas emissions for that particular house, and do so in a cost-effective way. So it's still it's as cheap or sometimes cheaper than a natural gas furnace for heating in a house. So that's probably one of the bigger, more recent technologies to enter the market. The other thing that's really interesting that's happened is, we look at houses as consumers of energy. They're connected to a natural gas network and to Manitoba Hydro's electricity network, and they're always sucking energy from those, either from the pipes or from the wires. But in the last 10 years, photovoltaic solar panels have become ubiquitous for residential homes, and they've really come down in price. So we now are building new houses and renovating old houses, improving all of the insulation and windows and doors and air tightness, using air source heat pumps so well that with some solar panels on the roof, we're able to make those buildings net zero, meaning they produce as much energy annually as they consume, or in some extreme cases, we can now have houses that produce more energy than they actually consume.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's a new world.
Yeah, new world. So let's go to another question. After an evaluation, the areas that are lacking have been identified. What are the next steps?
Yeah. So this is probably the most challenging for people. It's one thing to have a report that clearly says, here are the recommendations, these are your priorities 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the absence of any programs, that homeowner would then have to go out to the marketplace, find a contractor or contractors, which would be more appropriate, get quotes, screen them, interview them, choose them, and contract them to do that work. And that can be a really daunting process for people, looking online or looking, through different resources trying to find someone. So that's one of the more common steps. The other thing, though, that people should remember is that Efficiency Manitoba, for example, has some really tremendous, generous offers to provide. They provide rebates for improvement to insulation, for replacement of windows, for the installation of air source heat pumps, solar panels, etc. So anyone who's wanting to explore energy efficiency upgrades and improvements in their house should really start by going to Efficiency Manitoba's website and looking at all the programs that they offer. They also offer programs that are income qualified, meaning that if your total household income is at or below a certain level, you may be eligible for free upgrades, free insulation in your attics, in your walls, in your foundation. There may be an opportunity to have high efficiency heating equipment installed at a tremendously subsidized cost.
Gio, I would like to know, how would you see energy efficiency to move forward?
Yeah, so one of my dreams is that, when you go to the marketplace today, if you buy a fridge or a microwave oven, it has an EnerGuide label on it. So you can't buy a fridge or a microwave oven without knowing how efficient it is. And what I envision and what I know is coming is that eventually every house that's built and every house that's sold will eventually have an energy label on it, so people know what they're buying into and whether there's opportunity to improve the house. So that's something of the future, because I think we've been focusing too much on just the cosmetics of houses and not the real performance, the comfort, the efficiency, the durability, the resilience. There's lots of barriers to reaching that. First of all, energy evaluations are fairly expensive. So fortunately, we have had and are continuing to have federal and provincial programs that offer rebates and incentives or pay outright for the energy evaluation for the homeowner. I think once we remove that barrier, there's going to be a lot more opportunity to homeowners. And on top of that, so there's that first cost of the evaluation. Once we remove or lower the first cost of the actual evaluation, the homeowner still has to find money to do all of those upgrades. So one of my hopes is that in addition to the really good programs we already have through Efficiency Manitoba, that these programs are going to continue to expand. We have to remember that a lot of the energy efficiency obviously is important to the homeowner because they can be more comfortable, they can save money, but provincially, nationally, and internationally, we've made commitments to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So this is something probably if you spoke to me 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of my answers today would have been similar. The focus would have been on reducing energy use. But one thing that's kind of different now is that in addition to just talking about energy reduction, we're talking about reducing the amount of fossil fuels we use. So I'm hopeful that in the future, there's going to be a lot more programs that are going to focus not just on energy efficiency, but specifically on decarbonizing the type of energy that we're using. That means flipping from natural gas to electricity. And in order to do that, that means making sure we have lots of insulation in all of the parts of our house, that we don't have any uninsulated parts of our house, that we use air source heat pumps where they're viable and possible, and that we stop using natural gas.
And just to wrap up, tell us, how do people find out you and contact you?
Yeah, so if they go to our website, prairieHOUSE.ca, they can there's an info box there where they can write us an email and with an issue or ask us a question or request an evaluation. We also offer and support the services for many of Efficiency Manitoba's programs. So homeowners can also reach out to Efficiency Manitoba and inquire about the different programs that they're offering.
Thank you very much, Gio, for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Let's keep our houses and communities efficient with the Green Toba project. Thank you so much for watching us.